Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It is April the 3rd, the day after Liberation Day. People have woken up today around the world with markets tanked, their portfolios demolished, uncertainty about economic future, global destabilization, a further division of the already divided world we are living in, and we have no idea what is going to happen next. That is why today I have done a deep dive, and I'm going to stand by what I'm going to share with you as facts, also sourced. And I believe if you will give me 6, 7, or 8 minutes, you will have a better understanding of the war that Vladimir Putin, Iran, Xi Jinping, and North Korea and Kim Jong-un are unleashing not only against Ukraine, the war in the Middle East, the activity of the Houthis, but most importantly, bullseye against the White House there in Washington, D.C., and the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Don't even realize it. Putin and Iran are unleashing the kryptonite. Stick with me. Now, let's take a look at this. These are the major headlines, and other YouTube channels and our partners and our friends and even mainstream media are covering all of these stories. And I'm not going to talk about it. I want to go straight to the kryptonite. American tariffs. We see that. More will come. Global markets tank. We see that. We understand. Global responses. For example, Macron, president of France, is ticked. European Union, ticked. China, boiling. And they are stating that they will respond. There are Russians in the White House. Kirill Dmitriev and Witkoff have met, and Witkoff's head has been further filled with Russian propaganda about how evil the neo-Nazi regime of Zelensky is, which of course is all lies, and the war in Ukraine raging on. That is where we're at, but this is a meme floating around Ukraine right now. And Russia, and I translated it for you, upper left. We will destroy America, Putin says. Trump comes back and says, shut up, Vova. And Putin says, say what, Donnie? Trump then, I will destroy America. And it appears, this is the narrative that the world is running with, and we're watching it unfold. Just so much division and uncertainty and absolute injustice as America, the leader of the free world, and the President of the United States, supposed to lead by example, really continuing to divide the world and bring chaos every day. So I want to stay on task here. Will Trump's Iran strategy actually prevent war? Now, this is connected directly to Russia, Ukraine, North Korea, China. This is a headline. It's been in multiple sites, multiple sources, Reuters, AP, UPI, you name it, all of them. Will Trump's Iran strategy actually prevent the war? So what we want to look at here is a little bit of a timeline. Over the last few weeks, the United States is ramping up its maximum pressure campaign against Iran. And yes, for those of you always wanting to make sure, Greg, tell me about Ukraine. It's coming because it's all connected. In a letter sent to Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in early March, President Donald Trump gave Tehran an ultimatum. Reach a new nuclear deal with the United States within 2 months or face direct military action, quote, bombings the likes of which they have never seen before, as he told NBC News' Kristen Welker on Sunday, the same Sunday where he said he was pissed at Putin, which 12 hours later he ranted on, stating that NBC News is fake news. Absolute chaos. But it's playing into the hands of Russia and Iran and China and North Korea and others. The letter proposed mediation by the United Arab Emirates, UAE, whose emissaries delivered the missive in question and expressed Trump's preference for a diplomatic solution. Quote, I would rather have a peace deal than the other option, but the other option, which is the massive bombing, will solve the problem. Let's continue on the timeline. Iran, pay attention to this, waited for 3 weeks to respond. Now, remember the big stories after the negotiations in Saudi Arabia, and even Donald Trump had to come back and say, we haven't heard anything from Russia. They're dragging their feet. You have to see the pattern here. They know how to push his button. Just don't respond. And I'm going to tell you why at the very end of this video. First, they waited 3 weeks to respond. What happened during those 3 weeks? First came intense airstrikes against the Houthis. That was when Signalgate happened and the text messages were being shared and all of that debacle that was just been swept under the rug. Then the U.S. issued its first ever sanctions against Chinese entities for buying Iranian crude oil. And in recent days, the U.S. military has deployed a fleet of B-2 stealth bombers capable of carrying the 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs, pushing a lot of military, pulling it from different regions of the world there into the Middle East. After all of that, waiting 3 weeks, Signalgate, sanctions, U.S. military buildup, Iran at that point rejected 100% direct negotiations with the U.S. in a formal response to Trump's letter, but not delivered via the UAE. They delivered it via Oman and declared that direct communications with Trump and Oman, only Oman, the nation of Oman, can be the mediator. They put themselves in control. So what is happening? I am submitting to you today with facts, the timeline, everything, that we are missing the kryptonite. This is the weak spot for Donald Trump, and they know it. It turns out the secret to changing Trump's mind is not diplomacy. It is not sanctions. It is not war games. It is not threats. It's rejection with a touch of flair. Iran declined his direct talks, and now Trump's sending love letters via Oman. And this is an official U.S. response, quote, after the exchange of letters, we are now exploring the next steps to begin conversations and building trust with the Iranians. Let me remind you of when Trump first came into office this term and the war in Israel and Gaza raging. And remember all the hostages, and Trump made the statement and then backed up on it. If you do not release all of the hostages by Saturday, we will bomb, hell will be unleashed on you. And it was on all the billboards there. It was everywhere on the marquees. And then they backed up from it. You see, doesn't work. But what does work? Rejection, dragging your feet, not responding. That's the kryptonite that spins Donald Trump out of control. I'll continue with facts. A week ago, Trump was threatening airstrikes on Tehran if a deal wasn't signed in 2 months, a time frame apparently measured by vibes than calendars, kind of how he throws out numbers instead of looking at the real numbers. Now he's open to whispering sweet nothings through third-party nations. Donald Trump, quote, NBC News, if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing. So what changed? Nothing. Except Iran did not blink. They responded with a diplomatic middle finger, and reminded the U.S. that those 50,000 troops and 10 bases in the region aren't exactly ghost-proof. Quote, Iranian Revolutionary Guard commander, if you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones. They waited and waited and waited, and then responded. It spins Donald Trump out of control. Vladimir Putin knows this 100%, and he uses it to the maximum that he can. Don't speak, don't communicate, don't respond. That is the kryptonite. So we come to this. Iran has rejected direct negotiations with the U.S. in response to Trump's letter. But I give you a big why now. And this news coming out today, April the 3rd, and voila, we're back to the connection with Ukraine. Russia says U.S. threats of military strikes against Iran are unacceptable. Do you see the game that Vladimir Putin is playing? He's in control of all of it, pulling the strings behind the scenes. Iran, don't respond. Don't respond. Kim Jong-un, don't say nothing. Just keep supplying us weapons and soldiers. Iran, don't worry. We have an agreement. It's not a military agreement, but we have an economic agreement. And we also have an agreement that we hate the United States and we hate the West. Stand firm. Stand firm. I'll be there when you need me. And sure enough, we wait all these weeks. Everything dials down. We go into Liberation Day. The world goes into absolute chaos. And today, Vladimir Putin chooses to say, U.S. threats of military strikes against Iran are unacceptable. Reuters, April the 3rd, today. Point proven. This is the kryptonite. Now, I and many others, and I'm not a clinically licensed person, but there's so many out there that state that Donald Trump suffers from some narcissistic behavior, narcissistic patterns. So I pulled this directly out of the textbook on narcissistic behavior. We're missing the kryptonite. Rejection. Donald Trump hates to be rejected. That is why back like on The Apprentice, he would love to say, "You're fired. You're fired. Get out of here." Yesterday, throwing away a hat. He loves it, man, where he is the center, but rejection? So direct from the textbooks, ladies and gentlemen, rejection is a major blow to a narcissist's fragile ego as it challenges their grandiose sense of self-importance and perceived superiority. Point one. Point two, when faced with rejection, narcissists may react defensively, becoming angry, argumentative, or even resorting to gaslighting or other manipulative tactics to deflect blame and maintain their sense of control. Can I remind you of the meeting in the White House with Zelensky? It's exactly what we saw. Third, narcissists are constantly seeking validation. That's what he does. And admiration from others. And rejection can be seen as a direct threat to their self-esteem and sense of worth. Fourth, while they may outwardly appear confident and self-assured, narcissists are often deeply insecure and vulnerable, making them particularly sensitive to rejection. Some narcissists may actively avoid situations where they may be rejected. If you're wondering why, we will hear something about Russia and Ukraine and then there's nothing for a week. Or I'll say it through a third-party NBC reporter that 12 hours later I'll call it fake news. Why? Because they don't want to confront the situation because they may be rejected and they may show themselves to be weak. So they want to seek out relationships where they can maintain control and prevent others from rejecting them. Good luck going up against Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. Good luck. This is the kryptonite. I spent a lot of time putting this together, and I hope it gives you understanding and clarity why this behavior is happening and why it is such a disaster that this behavior, this kryptonite, this weakness is the president of the United States and the leader of the free world. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this message. Thank you for being a part of our community, the Hope Train. Thank you to all of our moderators, all of you guys leaving a comment. What are your thoughts on this? Please leave a comment. Communicate there back and forth with others. I scroll through that stuff at night, reading and respond to what I can. It's just very important that we push this because I think this is a truth that nobody's talking about. You guys be blessed, and we'll be back at you soon.